Hello. Hello, educators. Hi. It is Thursday, still vacation week for you folks, which is fantastic. I am Michelle Potvin, coach, LCSW. I have two groups that I run currently. It's Courageously Confident, which is a group for women to help them overcome stress, overwhelm, fear, all of those things that block them to become more confident and to feel more abundant in their lives. And I also have a group that I run, Divorce Victim to Victorious, which is a group for women to help them overcome divorce and all of the emotions and things that come with that and live a victorious life. I have been a therapist now for over a decade. I am an expert in trauma, anxiety, those types of things. And so my day one was Monday, and I know the topic was a little vague as far as brain training, but it's one of my favorite things. I do a lot of neuroscience, and so day one was about like using the cues to help yourself tell your brain when your day is over so that you can enjoy more of your time and kind of compartmentalize a little bit better. So I hope that was helpful. And then day two actually builds on that. Today is more about being able to stress less, but also when you're thinking about things, to be able to stress a little bit more effectively. Because I know none of you specifically, but I know a lot of people out there, especially with everything that's going on, pandemic, COVID shots, vaccinations, the kids with the masks in the schools and politics, there's a lot going on. And so it is super easy to just let your brain chatter at you all the time, and it makes it difficult to sleep. It makes it difficult for you to enjoy your time with people. It makes it difficult for you to sometimes eat, or maybe you're eating too much, all of those kind of standard things. So utilizing what it was the other day is really great to kind of like end your day and be finished with it. And then today, like I said, it's learning how to be more mindful, to honor that part of your brain that wants to keep you safe. Like I said the other day on Monday, that part of your brain, the one that's sending off the signal that you're in danger, it's responding to what's happening. And it's important to honor that part of your brain and not just say, hey, there's nothing wrong, because there is. There's a lot going on, and it's not going to believe you. And then it's going to be more difficult the next time that you want to do that. And I did want to say too, I love it when people interact. In my group, I get a lot of interaction, a lot of folks saying hello. So please feel comfortable to say hello. I would love to be able to speak directly to somebody. And also, later, if you're watching this later, go ahead and hit hashtag replay and still answer the questions, because I get notified even though I'm not running the group. I would love to come back in and answer questions. I'd love to know if this was helpful or effective. If you want more of this, I'm scheduled to speak, I think, again in April. So I wanna help you guys. That's why I'm here. So anyway, so getting on with this. Step one for being able to train your brain to kind of, I say stress more effectively, but be able to have the time to think about these things so that way you're not thinking about it all the time, is figuring out where you're at. So if you're here now or you're watching later, take a minute and figure out where are you? How much time are you spending thinking about whatever? Work, school, the kids, politics. Go ahead and write it down someplace, put it in the comments if you're watching it later. How much time do you spend thinking about this stuff? Take my drink of water. And then how do you feel? So think about that. How are you feeling when you're thinking about all of these things that may or may not be in your control, but that are out there in the world? So how does that feel to you? And again, either write it down on a piece of paper, Think about it in your head. Write it in the comments. Um, what happens to your energy when you're thinking about these things? Kind of like how much brain space is whatever your issue is. Let's say it's, I don't know, mask wearing. Let's say mask wearing really stresses you out. And so that's the thing that bothers you the most. How much of my brain space is this taking up, this problem? And then how often are those thoughts popping up when you don't want them to? So we're kind of establishing a base. Are they popping up when you're trying to do other things or be other places? What's happening? And then, even right now, in this moment, while you're listening, we're talking about it. I'm asking you to think about it. How does that feel? Like, what do you notice happening in your body as you think about this thing that I'm asking you to think about and feel right now? Stressful? Anxiety provoking? Not very good, right? So now let's try to think about where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to be as far as what you think about, where you spend your time, where you spend your focus, kind of like your goal state of mind. What is that? You can write it in the comments later if you're here later. You can just write it down or think about it. What's your goal, mind frame, mindset, brainscape, whatever you want to call it? All right. And then now step 3 is the plan for letting go, for being able to actually follow through with this, what the practice is going to look like. So remember, our brains are wired to keep us safe. So when something is wrong or something bad has happened or is happening, your brain wants to focus and think about it in the idea that it's keeping you safe. It's preventing you from throwing yourself into the fire or into the tiger pit, however you want to look at it. And if we completely ignore it, those strong emotions, they bottle up. And if anybody knows anybody who's a bottler, they're going to come out eventually. Generally, just like, the Mentos in the Coca-Cola bottle, just squirting all over the place inappropriately. So we honor that part of your brain by allowing a mindful exploration of the past to or not just past, but whatever the stressor is, to search for the meaning, to be able to identify what it is that you can do about it and how to let it go. And so we're teaching it to engage when it's appropriate in this kind of thinking and be silent when it's no longer appropriate. And like I talked about on Monday, the brain loves cues. And so instead of it just being cued by the world and doing whatever the heck it wants to, we're going to teach it intentional cues, give it this time and space that it needs to be able to process and think and kind of manage these things, and then let it go. And I know it sounds impossible to try to create an obedient brain, but it is possible. It happens. I've given this practice to many, many people, and usually within a few days, maybe a week of really practicing, they feel relief. They notice that the time that they spend thinking about these things is less. They're able to be more present more. It's effective. So what I need you to do is choose a time and a place that you will allow for, we'll call them like worry or stress appointments. So think of a time and a place that this would work out well for you. So maybe for those of you who have long drives after work, it could be, 15 minutes of your drive home that you're going to allow for these thoughts. Don't pick your bedroom. That's the biggest thing, because this place will now be the cue for you to think about and worry about these things. And so maybe you pick a room, a corner in your house, a chair that you have someplace. This will become the spot that you allow for this mindful exploration. So, and honestly, if you have a small place, I've worked with people before that, have small apartments or their bedroom kind of maybe could be their only space. You could pick a towel or a blanket or, um, something that you put down that indicates like, all right, this is what we're going to be doing now to your brain. And then you pick a few different times, depending on how much you're worrying. You pick a few different times, morning, evening, but not just right at bedtime, and set aside 10 to 15 minutes a day that you're going to allow for this mindful exploration. During this time, it could be helpful to bring a paper, a pen, your phone, if that's how you keep your notes, however you best kind of want to keep the takeaways or the lessons or the to-dos that come out of it. Um, and then, yeah, so then you have your time, you have your space. Another good thing to help you during these times might be if you tend to get really lost in these thoughts is to set an alarm. So knowing that, you've got 10 minutes, set your timer. When the timer goes off, that it's done. And I'll give you the practice for that too. But that's a piece of it is setting some sort of a timer or knowing yourself well enough to know if you're going to be able to get out of this once it starts. And then when you're in your 10 to 15 minutes, and that's all I'm going to give you, you just let your mind go. So maybe, during that day, the superintendent, I don't know, took away lunch breaks or something, some new thing that happened. And you just let your brain kind of go off and it just is going to do whatever it's going to do during that period of time. It can be helpful, like I said, to use that piece of paper and pen to write down, any lessons or things that you need to have learned about it, about yourself or about the situation. An example of that could be that you can't trust a person or that maybe in that situation you wish you had been more assertive, and so you write that down like, what, it didn't feel very good not to be assertive today. I'm going to practice being assertive. Something like that. And then also in that time it can be helpful. Another thing that I've assigned for people that works really well is trying to filter the stressors or worries or whatever into helpful and unhelpful, which I know also sounds a little strange, but for an example, say you are worried about driving home because it is snowy. So that's the worry. The snow is outside of your control. The worry is your thought. Is it helpful or unhelpful? It can be helpful if you realize, like, I need to have a new plan for driving home. Either I stay close to the school, or I get a friend to come and pick me up, or I take a different road back home. So that's a helpful worry. Unhelpful worry is I'm worried I will walk out of my door tomorrow and a meteor will hit here. That's not really helpful. There's really not much you could do about it other than, telling everybody you love them every time you talk to them or something like that. So helpful versus unhelpful. And then when your 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes is over, having the alarm, having some sort of, I don't want to call it a ritual, but kind of like that. Something that says, okay, this time is over. You pack up your blanket or your towel if you used one. You put away the notebook if that's what you did. And then you move on to whatever the other thing is that you're doing. And then the other part of the practice is those thoughts at first, if they've been kind of running over your life, will still pop up. So then you have to have a little bit of a practice for, okay, the thought has popped up. I recognize it. And at first it might take you a minute or two to recognize that you're now worrying and stressing again. And you just say, nope, not now. And you can imagine putting your hand up. You can imagine a stop sign, whatever works for you, just not now. And then you remind yourself, my worry time or my stress time, whatever you want to call it, mindful exploration is what I call it, is going to be at 10 o'clock tomorrow or whatever you've decided for your time. And then it happens, maybe a few minutes later, an hour later, the thought pops back up. Worried about, I don't know, getting my COVID shot. So then you recognize, man, this is giving me some stress. And this is one of those things I can worry about this, during my time. So again, you bring up your stop sign or just say, not now. Remind yourself of the time. And at first, it might happen often, but as long as you are consistent and continue to try as much as you can, it will eventually get easier. And the other thing that you can do to strengthen this part of your brain, this new ability, is that every time you think, not now, and then the thoughts go away and you're able to focus on washing dishes or making me cookies because you really enjoyed this so much and you wanted to celebrate with cookies, then you actually celebrate in your brain, like, oh my gosh, I did that. That felt really good. I can choose when I allow for these thoughts into my life. And that little mini celebration solidifies that you're doing this, you're capable of doing it. It releases a little bit of that dopamine in your brain, which tells your brain it's doing a good job. And then that reward becomes as helpful as the negative reward of having the anxiety response. And like I said, a lot of people do this and they are able to, within a couple of days or a week, really have a significant amount of relief. And, I wish there was some sort of magic pill that I could be like, hey, here, take this, whatever, have some more dopamine in your life. But there isn't. So it's a practice. It does work. And I wish the best for you. You are more than welcome, I think, to comment, ask questions, message me, I'm pretty sure. Check out my groups if you're into it. If you love neuroscience and kind of dorking out a little bit, I always welcome more people. So, all right, I hope that was helpful. It was fantastic being here this week. Thank you.